This is going to be my second video update, coming to you from Athens, Greece on this Saturday afternoon. Let's talk about some news and let's discuss the Twitter files. But before I get into the Twitter files, let's just talk about a couple of quick stories. So we have this tweet from Donald Trump Jr. Breaking: Zelensky is banning the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. His government has also been raiding Ukrainian Orthodox churches and arresting priests. Probably why he's a Dem superstar. He's all about freedom, guys. Let's send him another 100 trillion with no accountability. Is that trillion? Is that billion? Let's see, 100 billion with no accountability. I'm seeing so many zeros here. I'm like, how much is that? Anyway, that is a tweet from Donald Trump Jr., and he's exactly right. He is spot on. The Zelensky regime and the SBU, the intelligence agency, the intelligence services of Ukraine, under the direction of the intelligence services of the collective West, the US and the UK, they are indeed raiding Ukrainian Orthodox churches. And my suspicion here, before I get into the story from Reuters, my suspicion here is that as the Zelensky regime crumbles and as it realizes that it is reaching its finality, they are going to look for money anywhere and everywhere in Ukraine that they can find it in. And one of the places where I imagine they're thinking they could make a quick buck is in the church. That's why I think they're raiding these churches. Of course, the reason they give for raiding these churches is because these churches are agents of Putin, and they're trying to turn the Ukrainian people against the Zelensky regime and stuff like this, because the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, the recognized Orthodox Church, the collective West, along with other Orthodox churches, a few of them, Greece being one, the Patriarch of Constantinople being another, some other churches, some other Orthodox churches, they tried to create a breakaway, a heretical breakaway Orthodox church in Ukraine. It completely failed. It did not work out well. But one of the people that was involved in this scheme was one-time ambassador during the Maidan coup, Jeffrey Pyatt, who then became ambassador of the United States to Greece. And he kind of got much of the Greek Orthodox community to go along with this scheme, including the Patriarch of Constantinople. But anyway, we've done many videos on this. It happened a while back. Before the special military operation is when the deep state and Pyatt and all of these guys, they started to try and break apart the Orthodox churches, and they did that by creating this heretical Ukrainian offshoot, which some Orthodox churches recognized. Most did not. I believe most did not. They recognized it as a heretical church, and the church in Ukraine that they did recognize was this the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, which answers to the Russian Orthodox Church, the Patriarchy in Moscow, Kirill, and the church in Moscow. I may be getting some details a little bit wrong or a little bit off, but the general summary of what I'm saying is correct. But the Zelensky regime is now raiding these churches, and they're looking to, I imagine, to shut down these churches or to seize the assets of these churches. They want the property, they want the money, they want the assets. That's what they're going after, because their regime is crumbling, and I think they understand that. I think they realize that their regime is coming towards the end. Anyway, here's the article from Reuters. It says, and good on Donald Trump Jr. Good on you, Donald Trump Jr., for tweeting about this. The Ukrainian government will draw up a law banning churches affiliated with Russia under moves described by President Zelensky as necessary to prevent Moscow being able to weaken Ukraine from within. In a move condemned in Moscow, Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council told the government to draft the law following a series of raids on parishes that Kiev says could be taking orders from Moscow as Russia wages war on Ukraine. The Security Council, which groups top security, military, and political figures, also ordered investigations into suspected subversive activities of Russian special services in the religious environment of Ukraine and called for sanctions against unspecified individuals. Ukrainian media quoted sources as saying a pro-Russia former lawmaker and a senior cleric already faced personal sanctions, but the reports could not be confirmed independently. The Security Service of Ukraine, the SBU, also continued its raids on Friday, saying it searched at least 5 parishes belonging to a branch of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, which until May was subordinated to the Russian Orthodox Church. So basically, it is, as I stated earlier, that the Zelensky regime, they're looking to raise, to seize, to freeze all of the property and the assets of this church, which was until May, but continues to be subordinated to the Russian Orthodox Church. It has its links to the Russian Orthodox Church and is the recognized Orthodox Church of Ukraine. So Medvedev said this about what Zelensky is doing. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev described the authorities in Kiev as Satanists and enemies of Christ and the Orthodox faith. This is how the whole Christian world should treat them, he wrote on the Telegram messaging app. Orthodox Christians make up the majority of Ukraine's 43 million people. Since the collapse of Soviet rule, competition has been fierce between the Moscow-linked church and an independent Ukrainian church proclaimed soon after independence. Medvedev, Satanists, yep. Greedy, they're greedy. They're looking for money. They want more and more. Zelensky is worth what, according to the Panama Papers? He was worth what, 600 million? Something like that. I think the Panama Papers pegged his net worth at like 600 million, maybe 800 million, 500 million. It was somewhere around there. If Zelensky gets out of this alive, I wonder what his net worth is going to be if he gets out of this alive. 2, 3, 4, 5 billion? Who knows? But they're going to seize whatever they can seize and take whatever they can take in order to enrich themselves more and more before the Russian winter offensive, before the continual grinding down of their military, before the collapse, before all of this happens, which they know is coming. They are going to enrich themselves as much as they can. Anyway, since we're on the topic of Medvedev, before we get to the Twitter files, he also tweeted, he posted on Telegram this image of Jack Nicholson from The Shining. Remember that scene, the final scene where Jack Nicholson is chasing his son in the maze of the Overlook? I believe that's the hotel in Colorado it took place. The Overlook Hotel, I believe. I think so. Anyway, he was chasing his son with the axe, and his son was moving through the maze. His son was gifted with The Shining. He had the gift of The Shining, and he was moving through the maze, and he got out, but Nicholson was frozen, along with his presence at the hotel, frozen forever. And Medvedev tweeted out that picture. in his Telegram channel. He says this is what's going to happen to European customers after the introduction of a ceiling on oil prices. Got to hand it to Medvedev. He knows how to use his social media very, very well. So let's get to the Twitter files. And we are talking about Ukraine, but the Twitter files, much of the corruption, at least in Biden Inc. And I believe Tucker Carlson is doing a two-part documentary, a two-part series on Biden Inc. That's what Tucker Carlson is going to be investigating. The corruption of the Biden family, which is a business, Biden Incorporated. So I'm going to be on the lookout for that. But much of the Biden's origins, they're not only connected to his Senate seat in Delaware and what he was doing there, but a lot of it, I believe, the real riches of Biden Inc. come from 2014, the Maidan coup, and his de facto leadership, his de facto running of Ukraine while Obama was president and he was the vice president. So Elon Musk, he releases the Twitter files. That's what they're being called. He charged journalist Matt Taibbi with the release, with putting everything together. And Matt Taibbi, he told his Substack subscribers the other day that he's going to be making this big drop, the first drop, one of many, of what he is calling the Twitter files, which is just basically the evidence of something we all knew, which is that big tech is working with the deep state, with the U.S. government, with the FBI, the CIA, and with the political parties, and both political parties, not only the Democrat, but the Republican parties as well. Though Matt Taibbi reveals in the first drop of the Twitter files that while the Republicans are also connected to big tech, and they also use big tech as a tool of censorship, the overwhelming majority of the censorship that takes place is slanted towards the direction of the Democratic Party and the DNC. And that is one of the big revelations from the first drop of the Twitter files. None of this, of course, is a surprise to anybody. We all, I believe everybody that's watching this video, we all knew that that big tech and the government, not only of the United States, but of many countries, their governments are connected to big tech and to social media. I think we already understood that. But yeah, well, let me read it. Let me read you what he said. I was going to say something, but I forgot. Maybe it'll come up as I read a part of his Twitter thread. So Taibbi wrote, thread, the Twitter files. What you're about to read is the first installment in a series based upon thousands of internal documents obtained by sources at Twitter. The Twitter files tell an incredible story from inside one of the world's largest and most influential social media platforms. It's a Frankensteinian tale of a human-built mechanism grown out of the control of its designers. Twitter, in its conception, was a brilliant tool for enabling instant mass communication, making it a true real-time global conversation possible for the first time. In an early conception, Twitter more than lived up to its mission statement, giving people the power to create and share ideas and information instantly without barriers. As time progressed, however, the company was slowly forced to add those barriers. Some of the first tools for controlling speech were designed to combat the likes of spam and financial fraudsters. Slowly over time, Twitter staff and executives began to find more and more uses for these tools. Outsiders began petitioning the company to manipulate speech as well. First a little, then more, then constantly. By 2020, requests from connected actors to delete tweets were routine. One executive would write to another, more to review from the Biden team. The reply would come back handled, celebrities and unknowns alike. could be removed or reviewed at the behest of a political party. Both parties had access to these tools. For instance, in 2020, requests from both the Trump White House and the Biden campaign were received and honored. However, this system wasn't balanced. It was based on contacts because Twitter was and is overwhelmingly staffed by people of political orientation. There were more channels, more ways to complain open to the left, well, Democrats, than the right. The resulting slant in content moderation decisions is visible in the documents you're about to read. However, it's also the assessment of multiple current and former high-level executives. Okay, there was more throat clearing about the process, but screw it, let's jump forward. The Twitter Files Part 1, How and Why Twitter Blocked the Hunter Biden Laptop Story. I'll put a link to the Zero Hedge article, which goes through the entire first drop from Matt Taibbi, but Zero Hedge, at the end of this article, they say this. Finally, it will be very interesting to see which independent, impartial, and objective members of the mainstream media cover the Twitter Files, which, unlike all that Russia collusion bullshit, was a real and actionable attempt to interfere with U.S. democracy by covering up one of the most explosive political stories of a generation, not to mention an event that would have swayed the 2020 presidential elections. Now, there's a lot of analysis with the Twitter Files. They talk about how Jack Dorsey in the beginning was not in the know. He was completely clueless as to what was going on. A lot of the censorship was being run by the staff at Twitter, specifically the lawyer. I forgot her name. I think Vijaya something. I forgot her name. Anyway, she was the one that was on Joe Rogan with Tim Pool on that podcast with Joe Rogan, Jack Dorsey, Tim Pool. She also was fired by Musk. I think she was one of the first people that Musk fired. Anyway, Jack Dorsey was not in the know in the beginning. He was actually more of a moderate source, a moderate part to all of this, but eventually he was brought into this as well. Basically, it's look, all of these social media companies, they have former aides, advisors of political parties. They have former people that worked in the White House. I think the most famous is Sheryl Sandberg, who was or is, I believe she was, I think she resigned, but she still may be, the chief operating officer at Facebook. And she was part of the Clinton machinery. And then she was put into Facebook as COO, and she stayed with the company for like 10 or 15 years. Facebook was one of the first companies that was approached by the FBI to censor, and they were told to be careful about a Russian laptop story, complete BS. And Zuckerberg admitted that the FBI had approached Facebook, and now you have the Twitter Files. Government connected to big corporations. There's a word for all of this. There is a word. It is textbook definition of not only corporatism, but fascism. That is the definition. The simple definition of fascism is government working with the corporations. That's it. That is the definition of fascism. All the other stuff, the racism and just all the other things that the mainstream media has muddled into what they believe to be fascism is kind of BS. The real pure fascism is when the state and these big corporations work together, work hand in hand, are connected. And that is what we are seeing here. That is exactly what we are seeing here with these political parties, the governments, and big tech. And this is not only a U.S. thing. I'm positive this is something that the European Union does. I'm positive that other big governments in the collective West are doing this. I'm positive that other governments tried to do this, but were probably turned down by big tech, or maybe they weren't in the beginning. Maybe big tech was playing along with them. But Elon Musk, he is dropping a portion of what he has, and we're going to get more and more drops of these Twitter files from Taibbi. But this is just a portion of what he has. Elon Musk has all the direct messages, all the communication of so many politicians, celebrities, everybody, the who's who, the entire globalist elite. Elon Musk now has it, as does Zuckerberg. The Zuckbot has all of the messages from Instagram and the DMs there on Facebook Messenger and Instagram. But the politicians, the journalists, while they were on those platforms, Instagram was more of a celebrity platform. The political dialogue and discourse, that took place on Twitter. So Elon Musk has all of this. And it would be a smart move of him to not release the majority of what he has. Hold on to that, because boy, are you going to need it, Musk. You are going to need it, because if you think they came after you before, boy, are they going to come after you now. And Zero Hedge is right. The mainstream media, Fox is reporting on this. Some other mainstream media outlets are going to report on this, but most of the collective West mainstream media is not going to report on this. They're just going to ignore all of this. They're going to say this is, once again, Russian disinformation. This is Putin's work. This is Elon Musk, who's a Putin agent, and they're just going to try to memory hole this or explain it away as Russian disinfo or far right propaganda or stuff like that. That's how they're going to try to not report on any of this. The Hunter Biden laptop story. We all knew it was real. We all knew that this could have, that if this was reported on properly and it wasn't censored, that this would have probably, definitely, this would have changed the course of the U.S. election in 2020. One of the revelations, by the way, of this first drop is that the whole hacker thing was an excuse. The employees in Twitter, they did not want to see Trump win, and they were absolutely behind the Democrat Party and Biden. So they kind of concocted this whole hacker terms of service thing, and that's why they had to censor the New York Post and Kayleigh McEnany and anybody else that was tweeting this information, because they said that it ran afoul of their terms and conditions, which state that any hacked information is going to be prohibited or censored. So they made that up. That was pretty much what you got from this first dump, is that they kind of were saying, well, how do we want to censor this? We can't have this get out because this will sink the Biden campaign, and we're getting orders from the DNC that we have to censor this. What do we do? Well, let's just say it falls into the terms of service of hacked material, and that's how we'll explain it. So that was all BS as well. I think we all knew that it was BS, but that's kind of been revealed as well. But in closing, it does make you think, what if Twitter allowed this information, as they should have done? What if they allowed this information to get out? What if they allowed the New York Post to talk about this? What if other big tech companies allowed this information to get out, as they should have? This definitely runs afoul of the First Amendment as well. I mean, this shatters the First Amendment in a big way. And I wonder if there's going to be investigations, though I doubt it. I doubt the Republicans are going to have the cojones to do anything about this, because the Republicans would have done the same. Not all the Republicans, but most of the Republicans, the McConnells, the Lindsey Grahams, they would have done the same. They would have used Twitter if they could have, and Facebook to do their bidding as well. It's the uniparty, but nothing's going to come out of this. That's my own cynical view of things, though there should be a ton of investigations. No one's really investigating FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried, are they? No one. The guy's still roaming around free, and he's going to probably get off. He is going to probably get off. Anyway, what was I saying? What if this was allowed to have been part of the campaign discourse? You would have probably had a President Trump, I believe, that President Trump would have not gone forward with this war in Ukraine. Not because President Trump, I know there's a lot of conservative analysts who say President Trump would have put Putin in his place, and he would have put Xi in his place, and he would have, he would have told them, if you dare do this to Ukraine, I'm going to pounce on you. No, that's bollocks. That's complete fiction. Trump just did not want a war like this. Yeah, I know he armed Ukraine to the teeth. He gave Ukraine lethal weapons. He definitely filled his cabinet with the worst of people, Bolton and McMasters and all of these guys. But at the end of the day, Trump was avert to big conflicts like this. He didn't want it because it would tarnish his presidency. He knew it. I think deep down inside, Trump is a construction builder, and he's probably avert to destroying buildings and war and destruction. That's just my own personal belief. I'm not saying, Trump's a peacemaker by any means. I'm just saying this is my own hunch. But something tells me that Trump would have found a way to tell Zelensky and Ukraine. And remember, Trump did not like Ukraine. He did not like Zelensky. Ukraine gate, Russia gate, Ukraine gate. Remember all of that? Zelensky, he didn't like these guys. He knew that they were in the bag of the Clintons. I mean, he knew it. Alexandra Chalupa, the Ukrainian embassy in D.C., they were pushing hard for Hillary Clinton. They were lobbying super hard for Hillary Clinton in 2016. But something tells me that Trump would have told Zelensky, just shut up and say you're not going to get into NATO. Trump didn't like NATO either. So that's why I think he would have said, just say you're going to be neutral, agree to the damn Minsk agreements, and let's move on. That's what would have happened, in my opinion. I could be completely wrong and way off base, but I understand he gave lethal weapons to Ukraine, but I think Trump knew that, let me give them the lethal weapons so I can get these guys off my back, these rhinos, these warmongers off my back, and nothing's going to happen. Russia's, Russia can handle these weapons. It's not a threat to Russia. That's my belief. But I think Trump would have won the election. We wouldn't have had this conflict in Ukraine, and so many thousands, hundreds of thousands of lives would have been saved. I think that NATO would have not have been in the position that they are in now. They would not have been given all of the power that they have now. Trump would have marginalized NATO. He would have marginalized the European Union in a different way than what Biden is doing. Biden is deindustrializing the European Union. Trump would have been like, they hated Trump anyway. All of these elites in Europe, they hated Trump, and Trump didn't like them. So I think we would have been on a much different course. And probably Ukraine would have said they're going to be neutral because they wouldn't have had the backing of their biggest sponsor, which is the United States. At a very minimum, Ukraine would have just tried to buy another 4 years' time, in which case, who knows what would have happened. You would have maybe had Zelensky would have been voted out. Maybe they would have had a new government in place. Who knows? But at a minimum, Ukraine would have said, well, we can't, the far right, the NAZI movement in Ukraine would have probably said, well, we're not going to get much done with this president, so let's just shut up. Let's not poke the bear, and let's just give it another 4 years. That would have been, at a minimum, a likely scenario. But it just makes you think. You give, dynamite to the Silicon Valley young executives. Not all of them, but there's a lot of these young executives who have this ideological bent, and it clouds their work and their judgment. And you give them so much power. You give them this dynamite, and things get blown up. Things get blown up. So it's just really interesting, the butterfly effect, isn't it? A decision by a small group of Twitter executives has taken the world to where we are today. that one decision to go against the safeguards of the U.S. system. There's a reason that all of this stuff was put in place, the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, all these things. It's meant to safeguard against disasters of where we are today. But they went against all of that, and they decided to do the bidding of these parties, of these Democrat ideologues, these Democrat Party ideologues, who made it their mission to make sure at any cost, even if you have to go against the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights, at any cost, they would not allow Trump to be president again. And these executives, a small group of executives, they went ahead with it, and they censored this information. And it's brought us to where we are today, in a way. I'm not saying it's 100%, but in a way, it has brought us to this point, because things would have been much different had they allowed the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights to do what it does, to be what it's meant to be. Things would have been different, and I think we would have been in a much better place than where we are today. And I think the U.S. would be in a much better place than where it is today. Probably Europe would have been in a much better place, and many lives would have been saved. Many, many thousands of lives would have probably been saved. So that's the video, everybody. I don't think I have anything else to say. It's, one event that you may think, as you're sitting in the offices of Twitter, you may think you're being cool and you have this power, and look at me, I can censor the New York Post, and I'm going to help the Pelosi's and the Maxine Waters and all of these people of the world, and I'm going to be part of the club now, and I'm being true to my ideology. Lack of faith, lack of belief, and lack of faith, and a belief in this twisted ideology. Anyway, they may be thinking all of this without realizing that these decisions have terrible, terrible consequences. And you may not even be able to imagine these consequences because you're young. You're this young, cool Twitter executive, and you may not be able to realize this because you don't have the experience that older executives may have, like real seasoned older executives. They have this experience. They understand that, if I make certain decisions, because I have so much power, I need to think things through. You may not realize that the decision you're making could have consequences that you may never believe could come about. But anyway, that's the video. I'm going to end it there. theduran.locals.com. Go to the Duran shop, 10% off. Use the code GOODDAY, and we are also on Rockfin. Take care.